Okay guys, so here we are on our next video. This section is 4.2. This is all about photosynthesis. So please make sure you title your notebook page 4.2. Our key concept is the overall process of photosynthesis produces sugars that store chemical energy. Some vocabulary, we've got photosynthesis, chlorophyll, grana or thalkaloids, stroma, light-dependent reactions, light-independent reactions, chemosynthesis. Main ideas are photosynthetic organisms are producers, and photosynthesis in plants occurs in the chloroplasts. Now, there are a few types of organisms that do not need sunlight and do not do photosynthesis for sources of energy. Our essential questions are what are the reactants and the products of photosynthesis, because it is a chemical reaction, and what happens during the light-dependent reactions of photosynthesis, and what happens during the light-independent reactions of photosynthesis, and then lastly, what factors affect photosynthesis. So what exactly is photosynthesis? And you've studied photosynthesis before, and you think about it, what does a plant need to grow? Well, things like sunlight and water and a bunch of other things. But when we talk specifically about photosynthesis, the process of photosynthesis is a chemical reaction. And because it's a chemical reaction, you need some source of energy. So it uses the energy of the sunlight to convert water and carbon dioxide into sugar and oxygen. Now, photosynthesis is done by producers. Producers are plants and some algae. And it is the most important chemical reaction on our planet. So what exactly is the equation for the chemical reaction of photosynthesis? Well, down here, you're going to see the equation. So we've got our energy from the sunlight to make the reaction happen, and the plant takes in carbon dioxide and water. Those are our reactants, what we're going to put together to react. So again, that's carbon dioxide and water. Once that reacts with the energy of the sun, it turns into glucose and oxygen. Glucose is a simple sugar that everything needs for survival to produce ATP molecules. And in the last presentation, we talked about ATP being the form of chemical energy. So in order to make ATP, you need glucose. Now, if we look down below, we've got 6 carbon dioxide molecules to 6 water molecules, and that reacts to form glucose, and then 6 oxygen molecules. I want you to describe photosynthesis. So we're talking about the description of photosynthesis. This is the process of changing light energy into chemical energy. And that energy is stored as sugar in the form of glucose. It occurs in some plants, all plants, and some algae. And plants need light energy, carbon dioxide, and water. It takes place in these things called chloroplasts. Remember, plants have these organelles in their cells called chloroplasts. And inside those chloroplasts are a green pigment known as chlorophyll. And the chlorophyll actually captures the light energy from the sun. So photosynthesis in plants occurs in those chloroplasts. And photosynthesis takes place in 2 parts. In these things called grana or thalkaloids, which are sac-like photosynthetic membranes, and this other part called the stroma, which is the liquid or the fluid inside the chloroplast. So there's our chloroplast. The grana, they look like little stacked, like little baby pancakes, I guess. And then again, the stroma is the liquid. So we have 2 parts of the chloroplast that photosynthesis actually takes place in. And we have a couple of stages we're going to talk about. We have stage 1, which is the light-dependent reaction. And then we're going to talk about stage 2, which is the light-independent reaction. Independent because it does not need light. So the first one, stage 1, the light-dependent reaction. It takes place in these thalkaloids, those little stacks that look like baby pancakes. They capture the energy from the sunlight and transform it into ATP using water. And this process actually releases the oxygen. Our second part, the light-independent reaction, takes place in the stroma, the fluid, the liquid inside the chloroplast. It uses ATP and carbon dioxide to make sugar, the glucose molecules. Why is photosynthesis important? Well, we can't make our own food. We need glucose to make ATP, which is our chemical form of energy. So we must get our food from plants. So plants are the first step in our food chain. So we either eat plants themselves or we eat something that ate plants. The oxygen released during photosynthesis is necessary for all living things because we breathe in oxygen. There are a few types of organisms that do not need sunlight, and photosynthesis is a source of energy. So things that don't live in places like that will ever get sunlight, and they usually live in the deep oceans near little thermal vents where sulfur comes out, and they survive with a process known as chemosynthesis. Chemo means chemicals. So a process by which ATP is synthesized or made using chemicals as an energy source instead of light. And again, these are things that will never, ever see the light of day. So we do have some factors that actually will influence how quickly photosynthesis occurs. So factors that can affect the rate of photosynthesis. So again, how quickly photosynthesis occurs. Many factors can influence the rate of photosynthesis. The most important ones are temperature, light intensity. So if there's not a lot of light, photosynthesis is going to happen slower. And then also the availability of water. Again, if we don't have enough water, that's one of our main reactants for our equation. You're going to have photosynthesis occurring more slowly. All right, so that's the end of photosynthesis. We're going to touch on this some more during this week and then also at the beginning of next week. So this is just an intro. We're going to get more in detail. I need you to start to memorize the equation for photosynthesis. It's going to become very important for us as we move forward. So anyway, again, we'll touch base in the next video.